Okay, so you want to own vending machines. You've pictured it already. A bank of humming machines in an office break room. The coil turns, someone taps their phone, a bag of chips drops with that little thud, and you just collect the money while you sleep. Maybe you saw a video of some guy with 40 machines who says he works 4 hours a week and nets 6 figures. Buy a used machine off Facebook Marketplace for $2,000, drop it in a gym lobby, refill it every couple weeks. Watch the app tell you how much you made. Here's the problem. That picture is almost completely wrong. You are not actually in the snack business. You're renting the only foot of retail space inside somebody else's building, and they can evict you whenever they feel like it. Let's start with 2 locations walking through the same door. Well, 2 doors in 2 very different buildings. Picture the first one, a glass front lobby in a downtown office tower. 800 employees, a doorman, a security desk. You land the account. It feels like the win of the year. The second, a windowless break room at a 40-person distribution warehouse on the edge of an industrial park, 10 minutes from the nearest gas station, running 3 shifts a day, 7 days a week. Nobody else wants this account. It's boring. It's ugly. There's a folding table and a coffee maker from 2009. The floor is concrete. The lighting is fluorescent, and the only decoration is a laminated safety poster from a decade ago. You take the lobby every single time if someone made you choose in 30 seconds. Glass, marble, a doorman who nods at you on the way in. It feels like the kind of account that belongs on your website. The warehouse doesn't feel like anything. It feels like the account you settle for while you're waiting for a better one to open up.
The lobby machine looks like the obvious winner. It's a shiny $6,000 combo unit. It does $2,200 a month in sales, and you feel like a real operator every time you glance at the dashboard. But the property manager wants 20% of every dollar, just for the privilege of sitting there. And downtown parking and tolls eat another chunk of every service visit. And in 18 to 20 months, that same property manager will put the contract out to bid again, because that's what property managers do. And this time, Compass Group's Canteen division might undercut your commission by 5 points just to add another logo to their national account list. The warehouse machine looks like nothing. It's a used $2,500 unit doing $700 a month. The location manager isn't even charging you commission. She's just glad her night shift crew has something to eat at 2 a.m. No other operator is ever going to make the 20-minute drive out here to compete for this account. It will still be running when you're too old to service it yourself. Which one is actually more valuable? It isn't close. The lobby machine is a 1-year contract at the mercy of a property manager. The warehouse machine is a subscription, with no other subscription available in the entire zip code. Let's actually run those numbers side by side, because this is where it gets interesting. The lobby machine brings in $2,200 a month. Take out the 20% commission, that's $440 gone before you've bought a single bag of chips. Take out product cost at roughly 45% of revenue, standard for a mixed snack and drink combo, another $990. Card processing fees at 3% on a cashless heavy account, $66. Add the extra cost of a downtown route. Parking, tolls, traffic, twice weekly visits because foot traffic that dense empties the machine fast. Call it $220. You're left with about $484 a month in actual profit. Not bad. But that account on average survives 18 to 20 months before a rebid, a renovation, or a switch to a micro market kills it. Lifetime value, roughly $9,700.
Now, the warehouse, $700 a month, 0 commission, product costs around 40% because the mix skews towards cheaper staples, $280 gone. Card fees, $21. 1 easy weekly stop. No parking meter, no traffic. Maybe $40 in real marginal cost. Net profit, about $359 a month. Less than the lobby, every single month. But nobody is bidding you out of this account, ever. Industrial and warehouse placements like this one routinely run 11, 12 years. Multiply it out, and that single boring account is worth roughly $47,000 in lifetime profit, nearly 5 times the trophy lobby everyone would have picked first. This is the first thing to understand about vending. The snack in the machine isn't really the product. It's the toll you collect for owning the only door in the room. A pair of shoes competes on a shelf against 9 other pairs of shoes. A vending machine doesn't compete against anything, because in most locations, it is the shelf, the only place in the building to buy anything at all. That's the entire structural difference between vending and normal retail, and almost nobody explains it that clearly before you sign your first placement agreement. If the location is the entry point, then the actual product mix inside the machine is where the first real margins live. Most people assume this is the whole business. Buy snacks wholesale, mark them up, collect the difference. And it is real money.
Operators typically buy a $3 bag of chips for around $120 and price it near $3, chasing a gross margin near 55 to 60 cents on the dollar before commission and fees eat into it. After the location's cut and card processing, net margins on straight snack and drink vending usually land somewhere between 20% and 35%. Nickels and dimes only look small until you multiply them by 10,000 transactions a week across a route.
If plain snacks are the entry point, the specialty and bulk categories where things get genuinely strange. A gumball or a spin of loose candy can carry a gross margin of 70 to 80%. You're buying by the pound and selling by the handful. Go further into specialty vending and it gets absurd. A phone case machine can cost under $2.35 in material per unit and sell for $15 to $30 in a mall or airport. And a premium beauty product machine in a hotel lobby stocked with $15 to $35 items can pull $3,000 to $8,000 a month at the right property. A vending machine selling phone cases at that kind of markup is basically running a casino with better odds, and almost nobody outside the industry knows this category exists. Now, let's hit pause for 1 second. If you're finding this breakdown useful, this is a good moment to hit subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel keep making these. Underneath the specialty category is a layer almost nobody outside the industry has ever heard of: the money brands pay to get into your machine in the first place. Just like a grocery store charges a slotting fee for eye-level shelf space, beverage and snack companies negotiate for premium column placement, exclusive pouring rights, and co-op marketing dollars in exchange for access to your route's foot traffic. Add to that the telemetry layer. Modern cashless payment systems track exactly what sells, where, and when, and that data gets packaged and sold back to the same CPG brands so they can fine-tune what they push into vending nationally. The brands are paying you rent for your own rent. Underneath that sits the layer that explains why vending machines can charge what they charge in the first place: the emotional and situational purchase. A candy bar in a grocery store competes against 100 cheaper alternatives and a shopper with time to compare prices. A candy bar in a hospital waiting room at 11 p.m. or an energy drink in a warehouse break room at the start of a double shift competes against nothing. The buyer is stressed, tired, or trapped, and price sensitivity basically disappears. That's exactly why hospital and medical campus vending routinely pulls $2,500 to $6,000 a month per machine. Night shift nurses and worried families aren't comparison shopping. You're not selling a candy bar. You're selling 5 minutes of relief, and relief doesn't have price elasticity. And the layer on top of all of it, the one that's reshaping the entire industry right now, is the recurring, subscription-like relationship built through cashless payment apps. Roughly 71% of vending transactions in the US are now cashless, and cashless buyers spend about 37% more per visit than someone digging for quarters. Every one of those taps gets logged: what you bought, what time, how often. Operators use that data to push targeted restock reminders and loyalty offers timed to shift changes and lunch breaks. The app doesn't want your dollar today. It wants your thumbprint for the next 3 years. But running this is far more expensive than most people assume. And this is where vending starts to look less like a coin-operated snack box and more like a small logistics company with unusually tight margins.
A shelf of shoes in a store doesn't need a compressor running 24 hours a day. A refrigerated vending machine does, whether it sells a single drink or none at all. The electricity bill doesn't care. First, there's the machine itself. $1,500 to $8,000 for a basic new unit, up to $20,000 or more for a full micro-market kiosk with cameras and self-checkout. Second, restocking labor and fuel. Every stop on a route costs real drive time, and a downtown stop costs more than a suburban one because of parking and traffic. Third, spoilage and shrinkage, which behave nothing like dead retail inventory. A bag of shoes that doesn't sell just sits there, losing nothing. A sandwich that doesn't sell in 3 days becomes a total write-off. And the industry's own operators self-report micro-market shrink averaging around 4% of sales, with some unprotected locations running as high as 8% to 10%. Fourth, payment processing fees running 2% to 4% on every cashless transaction, which is now the majority of them. Fifth, machine downtime. A jammed coil, a dead card reader, a failed compressor. Each one means a truck roll that costs money whether or not it generates a single sale that day. And finally, the cost nobody likes saying out loud. Routes fail, locations close, contracts get rebid out from under you with no notice. There's also insurance and compliance overhead most beginners never budget for at all. general liability coverage in case someone claims a machine hurt them, plus federal calorie labeling compliance if you cross 20 machines, which means printing and maintaining nutrition signage across an entire route or facing a citation you didn't know was coming. None of that shows up in the glossy, buy a machine, make passive income pitch, but all of it comes out of the same thin margin.
Time makes every one of these worse, not better. The longer a perishable item sits unsold, the closer it gets to being a total loss instead of a discount. And unlike a pair of shoes gathering dust on a shelf, a sandwich past its date isn't marked down. It's simply thrown away. Full cost, zero recovery. And that points to the real structural tension at the heart of this business. You're actually running two completely different operations out of the same small box. One is a slow-moving, shelf-stable dry goods logistics operation. Chips, candy, soda, things that can sit for months without losing a cent of value. The other is a fast-moving, refrigerated perishable operation. Sandwiches, salads, dairy, that behaves like a miniature grocery store with a 4-day clock ticking on every single item. Most route schedules, built around the slow-moving side, because that's the side that's easy to plan around, are structurally wrong for the fast-moving side. And that mismatch quietly bleeds margin every single week, whether you notice it or not. And if you think shrinkage in a locked vending machine is the complicated part, the open shelf micromarket is usually worse. A locked machine requires someone to physically break it open to steal from it. Rare, obvious, and almost always caught on camera. A micromarket is an unattended mini convenience store. Open racks, an open cooler, and a self-checkout kiosk that runs entirely on the honor system. Nothing physically stops a customer from walking out without scanning. Industry surveys put average micromarket shrink around 4% of sales, and some operators without cameras or signage report losses as high as 8 to 10% before they add any deterrence. That matters more than it sounds like it should. On a business already running 20 to 30% net margins, a few extra points of shrink can wipe out a third or more of the profit. Sophisticated operators track shrink rate as a percentage of gross sales the same obsessive way a grocery chain tracks it, because it's the single number most likely to quietly bankrupt an account that looks profitable on paper. The snack is the hook. The camera above the kiosk is the profit.
So if products already carry decent margins, why have so many operators pushed so hard into services layered on top of the machines? Because a service does something a packaged snack never can. It can't be replaced by a cheaper competitor sitting 6 inches away on the same shelf, because there is no shelf. The clearest example is office coffee service. Instead of selling single cups out of a machine, operators lease an espresso or bean-to-cup system directly to a company, bundle in beans, filters, and maintenance, and bill it as a recurring monthly program. That single category is projected to grow by well over $1 billion through the back half of this decade, and it carries margins 2 to 3 times higher than straight snack vending, because you're not selling a cup of coffee. You're selling an installed, contracted, hard-to-remove system. The math is lopsided on purpose. A coffee station takes up a sliver of the floor space a vending bank occupies, yet it can generate a disproportionate share of an account's total profit. Because once a company outfits its break room around a specific brewer, replacing it means new equipment, new training, and a new contract. Nobody wants to deal with that over coffee. Layer a managed pantry or micro-market service on top, a flat monthly always stocked fee bundled with per item revenue, and you've built a second recurring layer that survives even months when foot traffic dips. And every one of those touch points is another chance to sell something else. A worker who stops at the coffee brewer twice a day walks past the snack rack and the cooler both times, which is exactly why operators fight to win the coffee contract, even when the coffee itself barely breaks even. It's not really about the coffee. It's about doubling the number of times someone stands in front of your inventory. The lock-in mechanism isn't a trick, it's just physics. Once the equipment, the billing, and the habit are all installed, ripping it out costs the client more than it costs you to keep servicing it. Once the coffee is theirs, the vendor is theirs too.
Now, here's where the story turns toward who actually wins accounts like these, because it isn't an even fight. Compass Group's Canteen division is the largest unattended retail provider in the country, backed by a parent company that controls close to half of the entire U.S. food service contracting market. That scale buys real advantages. Direct national pricing from Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, and Mars that a small operator can never match. Private label snack and beverage lines with fatter margins, centralized distribution warehouses that cut per stop delivery cost, and the insurance certificates and 24/7 service guarantees that big corporate campuses and hospital systems require before they'll even take a meeting. And because a giant like this services tens of thousands of locations at once, one bad account barely registers. Total risk gets smoothed out across the whole portfolio in a way a 5-person route operator can never replicate. Independent operators survive this not by fighting for the same accounts, but by refusing to fight that battle in the first place. They chase the warehouse, the auto shop, the regional trucking depot, the accounts too small or too inconvenient for a national player to bother pursuing, the ones that don't move the needle on a portfolio worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but absolutely move the needle for a person running 30 machines. They stock the regional snack brand, the halal or kosher option, the local bakery item that will never appear in a national planogram built around whatever Coca-Cola and Frito-Lay negotiated at the corporate level. And they answer the phone personally. A broken machine gets fixed same day because the location manager has the owner's actual cell number, not a support ticket routed through a national call center that promises a technician sometime this week. Some independents go a step further and turn the account into a small community hub, sponsoring the company softball team, dropping off extra snacks during a tough inventory week, showing up in person when something goes wrong instead of sending an automated email. That kind of trust doesn't show up on a spreadsheet, but it's exactly why a shift supervisor calls their vending guy directly instead of the 1-800 number on the sticker, and it's exactly why that account rarely goes out to bid in the first place.
Technology has changed this business more in the last decade than the previous 5 combined. The biggest shift isn't that vending moved online. You obviously can't ship a candy bar to someone's desk in 90 seconds. What actually moved is the office snack budget itself. Companies increasingly order bulk pantry supplies through Amazon Business or direct-to-office snack subscription services instead of relying on the machine down the hall, quietly diverting dollars that used to flow through a coin slot. Layer hybrid work on top of that. Fewer people in the building on any given day means fewer walks past the machine, and you get a real structural headwind, which is exactly why the traditional U.S. vending operator industry has been shrinking a few % a year, even as the broader unattended retail category grows. The hidden loss isn't just the sale that moves elsewhere. It's the impulse candy bar bought on the walk to a 2 p.m. meeting. That purchase doesn't relocate online. It just stops happening. Operators have adapted by shrinking the traditional vending footprint in half-empty office buildings and pushing hard into formats offices can't easily replace. Micro-markets with fresh food and real variety to compete with a delivered snack box, and accounts immune to remote work by design. Hospitals, manufacturing plants, student housing, apartment high-rises, where somebody has to physically show up in person no matter what happens to office culture. Student housing in particular has become a quiet favorite among sharp operators because a machine near a dorm can pull 2 to 3 times what an equivalent office machine does during the academic year, even though it goes almost dead over the summer. The trade-off is worth it because 8 months of feast beats 12 months of a slow bleed.
Here's a regulatory wrinkle almost nobody sees coming, and it turns an environmental law into an accidental second revenue stream. 10 states, Oregon, Michigan, California, and 7 others require refundable deposits on beverage containers, and Oregon's 1971 law was the first bottle bill in the country. Michigan pays the highest deposit in the nation at 10 cents a container and posts return rates above 93%, processed largely through reverse vending machines installed at retail locations. Distributors pay operators a handling fee of a penny or 2 per container just to run that redemption infrastructure. And in Michigan, roughly a quarter of every unclaimed deposit flows back to the retailers hosting the machines. A law written purely to fight roadside litter accidentally created a second payday on the exact same can, once when it's sold, again when it comes back empty. It's the environmental credit minus almost all of the sorting costs that used to come with running a recycling operation yourself. Modern operators lock in long-term customers the same way any subscription business does, just dressed up in vending clothes. The free tier is the cashless app itself. It collects your purchase history and fires off precisely timed reminders around shift changes and lunch breaks at no cost to you. The paid tier is a stored value wallet or payroll-deducted micromarket account, sometimes bundled with a flat monthly perk like 2 free coffees a day. The key statistic operators watch closely: someone who loads money into a stored account instead of paying cash transaction by transaction ends up spending 2.5 to 3.5 times more over a year. The entire point isn't to win today's transaction. It's to own the next 300 snack breaks over the next 3 years.
So where is this heading? 3 things are converging at once. First, smart coolers and computer vision grab-and-go fridges are replacing locked coil machines in the best locations, already running roughly 2 to 3 times the revenue of a traditional machine while nearly eliminating shrink at the same time. You walk up, tap your card to unlock the door, take what you want, and the camera and weight sensors figure out the bill. Second, Connected telemetry is turning restocking from a fixed weekly route into a predictive one. Trucks only visit machines the sensors say actually need it, cutting fuel and labor waste that used to be baked into every schedule, regardless of whether a stop was actually necessary. Third, the micro-market and smart store format is growing roughly twice as fast as traditional vending and has already crossed $1 billion in annual sales nationally, pulling both new investment and new operators away from the old coil and spiral format entirely. Put all three together and the direction is clear. The vending machine of the future looks less like a locked steel box with a jammed coil and more like a tiny unmanned convenience store that restocks itself, knows your name before you tap your card, and never runs a route stop it didn't need to run.
A good year in this business looks like this. Commission rates hold steady, no compressor dies midsummer, cashless keeps nudging the average ticket up, shrink stays under 2%, fuel prices don't spike, and net margin lands somewhere around 25% to 30%. Only one or two things need to go wrong to wreck that. Your best account, the manufacturing plant running 3 shifts, cuts a shift and half your foot traffic disappears overnight. Your trophy downtown lobby gets rebid and a national player undercuts your commission by 10 points. Gas jumps 30% and your route margins evaporate with it. Any one of these can drop net margin from 25% down to 3% or into an outright loss. That cap is the difference between a business that's comfortably profitable and one that's barely surviving. And from the sidewalk, both machines look absolutely identical. So here's the full picture, beginning to end. A vending machine business looks from the outside like buy a machine, fill it with snacks, collect the coins. From the inside, it's built on a completely different foundation. A temporary lease on the only piece of retail space in someone else's building, stacked with hidden layers of specialty margin, slotting money, impulse psychology, subscription-style loyalty apps, and, if you're lucky, a services contract nobody can easily rip out. The real profit centers were never the snacks in the coil. They were the location, the data, the recurring app, and the service contract riding quietly on top of all of it. If you want the full breakdown of how to actually evaluate and land locations like the ones in this video, there's a link to the guide in the description. And if this was useful, go ahead and subscribe for the next one.